Niccolò Machiavelli was a Renaissance thinker who lived over 500 years ago in Italy. His ideas continue to stir debate even today because he dared to look at power and human nature without illusions. One of his most famous and sometimes misunderstood messages is that when it comes to success and leadership, the first goal is to win. Then after winning, you can worry about morals. This might sound harsh or cynical, but if we take the time to understand Machiavelli carefully, we can learn a deeper lesson about how to navigate life and power in the real world. To begin, it is important to understand the context in which Machiavelli wrote. He lived during a turbulent time of political chaos in Italy. City-states were constantly at war, alliances shifted quickly, and rulers often lost power as easily as they gained it. Machiavelli observed that many leaders tried to be morally perfect but ended up losing everything. In contrast, those who were flexible, pragmatic, and even ruthless often managed to hold on to power and achieve their goals. Machiavelli was interested in what works, not what should work in an ideal world. He believed that humans are not angels. They can be selfish, deceitful, and driven by their desires. Because of this, leaders cannot afford to be naive or idealistic. Instead, they must understand human nature as it truly is and act accordingly. One of Machiavelli's key ideas is that the ends often justify the means. This does not mean that anything goes, but it does mean that success and survival sometimes require difficult choices. When a leader or individual seeks to achieve something great, they may need to act in ways that traditional morality would condemn. The focus is on effectiveness first, morality second. What does this mean for us today? In life, whether we are leading a team, running a business, or simply pursuing our personal goals, we often face tough decisions. There are times when sticking rigidly to moral rules might cost us opportunities or put us at a disadvantage. Machiavelli encourages us to think strategically and realistically about what will help us succeed. Winning first is about securing your position, creating stability, and gaining the power needed to make meaningful changes. Without success, good intentions alone will not lead to lasting results. Once you have won, once you have the foundation, you can consider how to act morally in a way that sustains your success. Machiavelli was not advocating for chaos or cruelty for its own sake. Rather, he was urging leaders to be aware that the path to success is complex and sometimes messy. The world is not a fair or just place by default, so those who want to thrive must learn to navigate it with skill and courage. This idea can also be seen in Machiavelli's advice to rulers to balance fear and love. He said it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Why? Because fear is a more reliable motivator for obedience and loyalty. Love can be fragile and change with circumstances. But this does not mean a leader should be cruel without reason. The wise leader knows how to use fear carefully and maintain respect. Another important point is Machiavelli's rejection of blind idealism. He warns against leaders who try to be perfectly good or moral and end up powerless. He says that a leader who is too honest or kind can be easily taken advantage of by others who are more cunning. Therefore, the leader must sometimes appear virtuous but be ready to act against virtue if the situation demands it. For individuals, this might translate to the idea that sometimes you must protect yourself first before worrying about what others think is right or wrong. Success often requires resilience, toughness, and sometimes hard decisions that might not please everyone. The key is to maintain focus on your goals and understand that morality is a tool, not a strict rule book. Machiavelli also emphasizes adaptability. The world changes quickly, and those who are rigid often fall behind. Winning requires being able to shift strategies, change alliances, and make new plans when circumstances evolve. Strength lies in flexibility as much as in force. This approach can feel uncomfortable, especially if we have been taught to believe that good people always win by doing the right thing. Machiavelli asks us to look deeper and accept that life's realities are more complex. He invites us to be brave and honest with ourselves about what it takes to succeed. In summary, Machiavelli's message to win first, then worry about morals, is a call for realism and courage. It does not mean abandoning all values, but recognizing that success and survival come before moral perfection. Only when we have secured our position can we truly influence the world in meaningful ways. And even then, we must act wisely and with awareness of human nature. This teaching challenges us to rethink our approach to power, leadership, and personal growth. It asks us to balance our ideals with practical action. It asks us to be strong enough to face the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. By understanding Machiavelli's perspective, we can learn to navigate our own challenges with more clarity and effectiveness. We can prepare ourselves to win and then to build something good from that success. Because in the end, true strength lies not only in winning, but in what we do with that victory. In the first part, we learned that Machiavelli teaches us to prioritize winning before worrying about morals. He encourages us to be realistic about human nature and the demands of power. Now, in this second part, let's dive deeper into how Machiavelli advises leaders and individuals to navigate this path to success, and what lessons we can draw for our own lives. Machiavelli understood that power is never secure. It is always fragile and must be actively maintained. This means that winning is not a one-time event, it is an ongoing process. Once you win, you must work hard to keep what you have gained. This requires vigilance, strategy, and sometimes difficult decisions. One of the key strategies Machiavelli discusses is the importance of reputation. Reputation can be a powerful tool in maintaining power and influence. A leader who is seen as strong and capable can deter enemies and gain allies. But reputation is also fragile and must be carefully managed. Machiavelli advises leaders to cultivate an image that supports their goals. Sometimes this means appearing merciful, sometimes cruel, sometimes generous, sometimes strict. What matters is effectiveness, not consistency. This may feel uncomfortable because many of us value honesty and transparency as virtues. Machiavelli does not reject these virtues outright. Instead, he warns that they must be balanced with pragmatism. If being honest in a situation will lead to your downfall, it might be wiser to be discreet or strategic. This is where the idea of virtù comes in, a concept Machiavelli uses to describe a kind of skill or mastery in politics and life. Virtù is not virtue in the traditional moral sense. It means the ability to shape the world to your will. It means adaptability, decisiveness, courage, and wisdom. The person who has virtù understands when to bend and when to stand firm. They do not blindly follow rules, but make their own rules when necessary. This is how Machiavelli's leaders succeed where others fail. Machiavelli also stresses the importance of understanding fortune or luck. He compares fortune to a river that can flood and destroy but also provide life. Those who want to succeed must prepare for fortune's changes. They must act boldly when the moment comes, but also have the wisdom to adapt when things shift. This balance between control and acceptance of uncertainty is central to Machiavelli's thought. He teaches that winning requires both planning and courage, both flexibility and strength. Another important lesson from Machiavelli is that cruelty and kindness are tools, not moral absolutes. Sometimes cruelty is necessary to maintain order and stability. Other times, kindness can win loyalty and trust. The wise leader knows when and how to use each. This is often misunderstood as a justification for cruelty. But Machiavelli's real point is that success in leadership depends on results. Morality is secondary to survival and effectiveness. For us, this means we must be careful not to let rigid ideas of right and wrong blind us to what is possible. There are times in life when we must act decisively and protect ourselves, even if that means upsetting others. There are times when mercy or patience can serve us better. The key is to choose the right tool for the moment. Machiavelli also warns against relying too much on luck or chance. Winning requires effort, it requires intelligence, it requires the courage to act even when the future is uncertain. This is a call to creativity and courage. To win first, then worry about morals means to be a creator of your own destiny. To act with strength and intelligence, to face reality clearly, to make difficult choices. And then, once you have the power and position, to consider how to build something lasting and good. This approach challenges us to rethink what it means to be moral and successful. It asks us to accept the complexity of life and power. It asks us to be strong enough to face the truth and wise enough to act with purpose. In the next part, we will explore how Machiavelli's ideas apply not just to leaders, but to each of us in our daily lives. How we can balance winning with integrity. How we can use his lessons to grow stronger and more effective without losing sight of our values. For us, this means being wise about our relationships and who we let influence our path. Sometimes we need to stand alone and trust ourselves. Finally, Machiavelli teaches that the greatest leaders are those who can innovate, who can break from tradition and create new ways of doing things, who can see the world as it is and act boldly to shape it. In the first two parts, we explored how Machiavelli urges us to win first and then worry about morals. We saw that success requires realism, courage, and adaptability. Now, in this final part, we will look closely at how these ideas apply to our daily lives and how we can balance winning with living according to our values. Machiavelli's lessons are not just for princes or politicians, they are for anyone who wants to achieve meaningful goals. Whether you are building a career, leading a team, or simply navigating relationships, his advice about winning and morality can guide you. First, it is important to recognize that life often demands tough decisions. We are not always in a clear moral situation. Sometimes what feels right in theory may not work in practice. Sometimes kindness or honesty can be taken advantage of. Sometimes standing firm may require actions others see as harsh. Machiavelli encourages us to look beyond black and white ideas of good and bad. He invites us to see actions as tools. The question is, does this action help me succeed? Does it protect what I value? Does it move me closer to my goal? This mindset is about taking responsibility, about being active instead of passive, about understanding that winning is not just about luck, but about skill and effort. But what about morals? Where do they fit in? Machiavelli does not say to ignore morals forever. He says to win first and then worry about them. Why? Because when you are weak or powerless, your morals may not matter. You may have the best intentions, but if you cannot survive or thrive, you cannot make a difference. So first, you focus on gaining strength. Once you have strength, you can shape your world according to your values. You can create lasting change. You can influence others. You can build institutions and relationships based on trust and respect. But even then, you must be wise. You must understand that others may not share your values. You must be ready to defend what you have built. Sometimes this means making difficult choices. This does not mean abandoning integrity. It means being practical about how and when to express your values. Machiavelli also teaches us to be aware of ourselves, to understand our strengths and weaknesses, to be honest about our fears and desires. This self-knowledge is a foundation for winning. When you know yourself, you can act with confidence. You can recognize when to adapt and when to stand firm. You can avoid being led by illusions or wishful thinking. Another important point is that winning is not only about power over others, it is about power over yourself, about mastering your fears, doubts, and impulses, about acting with purpose and clarity. This inner strength is what makes you truly unstoppable. When you combine external success with internal mastery, you can live with both effectiveness and dignity. So how do we practice this in daily life? Start by setting clear goals. Know what you want to achieve. Focus your energy on actions that move you forward. Be prepared to face challenges. When obstacles arise, don't retreat out of fear or moral hesitation. Find ways to overcome them. Be adaptable. When circumstances change, be ready to adjust your approach. Flexibility is a strength, not a weakness. Build your reputation thoughtfully. Be consistent in your actions where it matters, but don't be afraid to be strategic about how you present yourself. Take care in your relationships. Trust wisely. Choose allies who support your goals and values. Know when to stand alone. Practice self-awareness. Reflect regularly on your actions and motives. Learn from your successes and failures. And remember, winning is not just about achieving power or status. It is about creating the conditions to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. It is about being strong enough to shape your world while staying true to who you are. Machiavelli's message may seem challenging. It asks us to be brave and realistic. It asks us to accept that life is complex and sometimes harsh. But it also offers hope. Hope that by understanding how the world works, we can act wisely. Hope that by winning first, we open the door to a deeper and more genuine morality. Hope that strength and success can lead to freedom and growth. In the end, win first, then worry about morals is not a call to abandon values. It is a call to build the foundation from which true values can flourish. By following Machiavelli's advice, we learn to be both strong and thoughtful, both practical and principled. This balance is the key to living well in a world that is often unpredictable and demanding. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Machiavelli's timeless wisdom. May you find the strength to win, and then the courage to build a life of meaning and integrity.